Hi, my name is George Yunis. I'm the Senior Director of Creative Services for the ARAMARK Corporation in Philadelphia. From my perspective, the vertical markets that I think have the most opportunity, there's quite a few, but really if I had to narrow it down, I would probably lean towards anything that has to do with consumer experience or engagement of consumers to really closely be tied to demand creation. And from my perspective, I think where I see a lot of this is going to be in areas that are maybe a little bit less traditional from a sales perspective. So for example, anything from museum environments to hospitality environments, conference centers, lodging, but not in the traditional lobby, wayfinding, or exhibit finding, but rather creating immersive experiences that are coming out of a very different perspective of digital signage. So for example, if it was a museum, it's not a digital signage board or screen that's tied to a particular exhibit, telling you about a dinosaur, telling you about a painting, but rather immersing you into perhaps how that painting or how that art influences society to this day, and perhaps in really high-tech and unusual ways. So something very much around immersion is where I see these opportunities the most. Specifically in a business sense, I still see retail and food as being constant drivers, and I do think that anything that ties into intrinsically technologies that are connected to businesses, whether they're through, for example, mobile media, or whether it's through some other form of digital media, environments that are conducive to that. So retail electronics still is clearly going to be a leading sort of player, and the ability to bring that into other environments, whether it's convenience stores or quick serve restaurants or anywhere else, because we'll continue to see that merging of environments that are very currently separate coming together to create much more complete experiences. Some of the challenges I think that this industry, the digital signage industry, needs to overcome in order to continue sort of the kind of very strong growth and growth patterns are really tied, I think, ultimately to sort of two or three buckets. One bucket being what a lot of people are hearing and saying is standardization. Standardization of formats, for example. If you have a network and you create content for it, you want to know that what you create doesn't have to be reformatted 5 other times for 5 other networks. So that's a simple example. I think another area where there's real challenge or need is to understand how to tie strategy and insights or measurement around the end user, viewer, or target, understanding that strategy and those insights to create content that's really addressing, again, experience. And if it happens to be selling a product, that's a bonus. If it happens to be informing you or wayfinding or whatever, that's a bonus. It's important, but ultimately really what it's about is the proliferation of digital media and content is just so overwhelming that if we don't continue to tie it closely to the end user's intrinsic expectations around experience, it will become just a lot of clutter. And so I think that's something that's not easily defined, but very, very critical for us to continue to embrace, understand, and actually act upon. And one side note is that I think ROI, the big buzzword for a lot of folks in this industry, is ROI, and how do we sort of justify or prove ROI for digital signage? I think you'll find that there will be a lot more openness around what defines ROI when you know or when you understand that your digital signage or digital content is really truly touching or affecting the intrinsic end user experience, and it's organically tied. When I think about technology in a very technologically focused or intrinsic area or industry, I think that the technology, when you come to a show or a conference like the DSE show, you see a lot of different sort of core technologies and then sort of sub-technology categories and innovation. But what's interesting to me is that the technology is on some levels fairly basic when it comes to where we kind of have to really focus our efforts. I think a sort of a headline one is mobile marketing. I think we need to really learn from what's going on with mobile marketing, and it's the entire offering and set, the networks, the enterprise sort of approaches, and the tie-ins to advertising and marketing and branding. They're doing a really good job of it, and they really understand the relationship between the device and the user. In our case, we're talking about environments and users. So we have to be able to tie brands, lifestyles, and engagement really together in a way that's never been done when it comes to environments. And technologies that support that. When you look at these touch screens, when you look at these, I don't even know the name for them, these clear screens that are not projection based, but actually run the content in the feed right into them, skins I think they call them, or something to that effect. I mean, those are really neat technologies. I think that there's an opportunity opportunity to really tie in to, again, engagement and user experience-based technologies more than anything else. We have a lot of other areas that are all important, but if we understand that lifestyle, brand, environment, and then pulling that together with a clear focus at all times on technology that engages really deeply and richly, it's a sort of a general way to answer that question, but I think it's where we have to go. One other area that I see a lot of growth in technology, but also opportunities to continually evolve the actual display devices. And it's a simple thing, but I was really intrigued by these really tiny mini, basically, signage units that people can put on their lapels. And it's tiny. On the other hand, I looked at, there's a new monitor size coming out that's a 46-inch monitor, but the width is that of a 46, but the height is just half of the height of a normal 46-inch monitor. It's just a real simple innovation that allows for low ceiling applications. Those kind of simple, but fundamentally, again, understanding, technology innovations that are understanding of the environments and helping to integrate digital signage in ways that are just logical. That's a really simple but enormous technological kind of growth area. As a member of the advisory board, we have an opportunity to speak and present at a number of different sessions throughout the years, and in my case, I spoke in a session really with a couple of other panelists from Royal Caribbean and from Cereal Bowl, a newer kind of a QSR franchise concept. And our topic was around creative content development, sourcing, repurposing, and then approaches to developing content for a network. So in other words, as a publisher of content, sort of how do we approach the either internal or external resource models? And so we spoke to that. We had a lot of attendees. It was great. And I think that it's one of the biggest questions is really, should I or can I run my own content, or should I work with a provider, a third-party group to provide that for me? And both models work depending on your needs, but I think increasingly, again, I've said it before and I'll say it over and over again, if you really want to tie the digital experience into your environments in a way that really connects brands and lifestyles to create engagement, you really have to understand how to publish content that's intrinsic to the environment, and no one knows that better than you, the environment or experience provider. And so I think that it's really important for people out there who are looking at network signage and network implementations to understand, how do I really capture what I know about my user, attendee, customer, my experiential and my environmental opportunities. And so that's what we try to address, at least some of the basics around that. I actually thought this year there was a noticeable change or improvement or growth from last year. I thought it was actually very noticeable, and I think not only in growth in terms of number of the exhibitors and attendees even, I feel like there was a definite increase. But I think that there's a maturation in how things are being presented, the level of dialogues. There's less of a frantic energy around every little bit of technology, while people are still thrilled and interested in that, to really looking at solutions, integration, enterprise approaches. Even when there are very simple, small networks that are being considered, there is a broader sense about a holistic look at digital signage, digital communication, how it impacts environments. And so it's getting there slowly but surely, and I really felt there were some changes this year in that respect. And I thought the show was really well run, frankly. And then I'd tell you if it wasn't. I thought it was well run, and I thought that there was a better offering of seminars this year, a significantly better offering. Digital signage, join the revolution.